Hello everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and I teach watercolor and gouache sometimes, and today we are doing the Spaniel puppy.
Cute.
So cute. We have Michael here who's filming with us. Thank you for being here.
Hello, you're welcome.
And we are going to be doing this project in 7 steps, and actually let me put a blank behind it so it doesn't get confusing. Okay, so our very first step is we're going to paint in the background. Our second step, we are going to do a light brown wash across our dog, except for where there's white fur. Our third step, we will be putting in the darker values, the dark brown areas on our dog. Our fourth step, we will be painting our nose and the white fur. Our fifth step, we'll be putting in like more of a vibrant brown for our medium values. For our sixth step, we'll be doing our eyes and our paws. And our very last step is just some highlights on our dog and any finishing details. The supplies I'm using around 2 and around 6. These are my go-to brushes. They're watercolor brushes. You can use gouache with watercolor brushes. Just make sure you clean them well. Just rinse them well with water. There are brush cleaners that exist that you can use, but really I just rinse them with water. I'm also going to utilize a wash, a 3/4 inch wash, just to do the background quicker. It's not necessary. I painted this with my round 6, but just for the sake of time, we're going to use a wash. So if you have one of those, grab that. We are using 5 colors for this project. We have ivory black. We have carmine. We have turquoise blue, we have permanent yellow deep, and my last one here is permanent white. Okay. All right, we got an outline here, so we'll outline, transfer our outline to our oath, and then get into painting. Oh, the brand we were using for the gouache is Holbein. Holbein Designer Artist Gouache. Okay, I'm going to tape my outline down. I'm going to put my graphite paper dark shiny side down. I'm going to take a pen and just start tracing. Now, usually I talk about making sure you're aware of your pressure when you are doing this, but with this project is not as important because we are using gouache instead of watercolor, so there is more, gouache is more opaque than watercolor, and what that means is you can't see through it. So that means you can paint the dark lines or draw the dark lines and we'll most likely paint over them. So it's not a big deal.
Also, I feel like the lines kind of land on contrast switches, you know, like dark brown to white.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's where there's actual like the end of a form or end of a color or something. Now there are a lot of little lines here, so try and, if you have like a marker or something or a blue pen or a different color so you can keep track, that would be helpful. Or just eyeball it. You know, I forget to like trace a section all the time. That happens, I just eyeball it. Not a big deal. Transferring outlines is my least favorite part. It's not the fun part, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes what I'll do when I'm feeling like really on top of it is if I know that I want to paint a few things, I'll just trace or transfer all of my outlines at once. So then I can just like get to painting and I don't have to like stop and transfer in between each. You know what I mean?
We got to get you an assistant, an outline assistant.
Anybody interested in that job? Michael?
No.
I'll have Keenan do it.
Keenan, we'll make Keenan. He'd probably be great at that.
Yeah.
You know what kind of spaniel this is?
Isn't it like a King Charles or King?
Yeah, I just looked it up and now I forgot. Because the only spaniel name I know is Cocker Spaniel.
It's not a cocker.
It's Cavalier King Charles Spaniel.
That's what it is, and that's why I named it Spaniel Puppy, because I'm like, that's a really long name for this dog breed, and that will be hard to search, so I just did Spaniel Puppy.
They're adorable.
They're so cute. They got the biggest eyes.
And on the dogtime.com ratings,
Yeah.
they're very friendly with family members.
Aww.
They don't like being alone.
Okay, I think I have everything traced. Kind of putting in the dashes for where there's darker values. All right, let's get painting. If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my
I
work.
promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
I promise to have fun.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna start with the background first. I'm gonna mix a like dark blue, almost like a turquoisey navy color, which is honestly this like blue color is one of my favorite colors because it has like a little bit of green to it. So I'm gonna take my turquoise blue and I'm using my wash for this. You can use your round 6 if you don't have one of those. And I'm mixing black in here. I want to have more blue than black so it doesn't read gray.
That sleeve is worrying me again.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm going to take just a tiny, tiny bit of yellow. Not too much, because then that would turn it like super green. We don't want green.
And that yellow is potent.
Yeah.
That's a lot of blue, and that tiny dab of yellow just made it green.
Oh, that color is so beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to start with, I'm just going to go along the edge here. See how quickly I can fill this in with a wash? So great. I am painting over my outline, and I'm okay with that because at the end, when we're kind of doing our highlights and our details, I can just layer, I can just paint over this blue that I'm putting in now. So if it's not a perfect edge and it overlaps, it's not the end of the world, my friends.
That puppy is so cute, it's hurting me.
Okay, so I'm going to start with this darker blue. And then I'm going to add a tiny bit of white, just a tiny bit, just to get a lighter value. And I'm just painting from edge to edge here. Kind of following the roundness of the puppy.
Channel your 3rd grader rainbow drawing skills.
Yes.
Do that shape.
And I'm just slowly adding more white as I move up to make a lighter value.
Before you get too far, that bottom right corner, do you need that dark?
Yeah, I'll blend that out. Thank you for pointing that out, my dear. Also, Michael and I are married. That's why I can call him my dear and get away with it. The nice thing, too, that I like about the using a wash for this is I get smoother brush strokes. So you can tell that I used a 6 when I was painting this because of all of those texture lines. You see that? Those are my brush strokes, which are great. I love brush strokes, so don't get me wrong. I think that they're beautiful, and I really have a love and appreciation for them. But if you want to smooth, if you want it to be more smooth than what it's coming out to be, try a wash brush. Okay, now I'm getting to the point where I want it to be mostly white because I want it to fade to white at the top here. And if it's easier for you to, like what I'm going to do is I'm going to start thinning down this paint as well. So it's getting a lighter value and then also like getting a lighter transparency. but you gotta rinse your brush really good. Get all that gouache out of it.
A gouache wash?
Yes. Gouache wash, if you will. Our goal is to have like a barely there color. If it doesn't like make it to white at the top and it just kind of fades to a light blue, there's nothing wrong with that either. I just love the idea of it being dark and getting light.
An ombre?
An ombre, if you will. All right. That was step 1.
Sweet.
We did it. Good job. Now we're going to move to step 2, and I'm going to switch to my 6 for this, and I'm going to make a brown. Brown is essentially dark orange, so I'm going to mix yellow and red. Now this red is strong, so if you use too much red, it's going to be like super, super, super red orange. So I'm going to tone that down with more yellow. And then to desaturate this orange, I'm going to grab some black. Not too much black because black is also a very strong color. So I'm just adding a little bit more black as I go until I get a good brown. And now I'm going to add water to it. See, now I have light brown. Voila. And I'm going to take that light brown, so I am going to be using water and doing kind of an underpainting, where I'm just kind of doing a layer of light brown on my dog, avoiding the white fur areas, which would be in the middle of the forehead, the paws, and the like nose area. So this is where we're using more water in our painting, because this is just the underpainting part. This is just to establish our colors a little bit. Now, if this is your first time using gouache, and you're like, what is gouache even? I don't even know. We made an entire video based on comparing gouache to watercolor and acrylic. Oh shoot, I got my paw in there. That's okay, I'll just paint it white when it gets to it. We talk about how it compares to acrylic, we talk about how it compares to watercolor, give you some techniques on how to use it and how to utilize it. But essentially gouache is watercolor. It's just an opaque watercolor. And opaque means that you can't see through it. So it blends out like a watercolor and it reconstitutes like a watercolor. And reconstitutes means that even though like my background is dry, if I were to take a wet brush, it would bring the paint back alive the same way it would watercolor. So gouache, I love that for gouache because it actually makes it easier to blend, because I can put colors down whenever, and then when I want to like blend those colors, they'll reconstitute and bring back, which is, I think, really wonderful. But the other benefit is that since it's opaque, you can layer it. So like right there where I accidentally painted my paw area, I can take white gouache and just paint over that, and it will cover up that brown. So it's really the best of both worlds. I love it. Okay, we just finished step 2. Good job, you guys. We're sailing through this thing. Okay, we're gonna move on to step 3, which is we're gonna start putting in our dark values, or our like shadows slash dark values slash dark browns on our dog. So we wanna mix a dark brown. So you might still have some of this left over from our mixing earlier. I'm going to mix a little bit more so I don't run out. Okay, so to mix dark brown, we're going to have yellow, red, and a little bit of black. And using this dark brown, I'm going to kind of look, you can utilize your outline, you can utilize the reference photo, but really what we're trying to put is where there's shadows. So along here at the left side of the ear would be casting a shadow right here, and it's the side of the head turning away from us. So that's going to be a dark value. Where the hair gathers and kind of chunks up. So now we're going to take our dark brown that we mixed and start putting it in the shadowed areas of our dog. So I'm looking at where the ears meet the body. I'm looking at like the inner, what is this part called? The inner
bridge?
Yeah, like this, yeah.
Nose bridge?
The center here. And also where the hair is like gathered. We have some of that too.
The unibrow area.
Yeah, that's it. I'm just going to mix a little bit darker color. I just felt like it needed to be a little bit darker. Nice, a nice rich dark brown. The only bad thing sometimes with mixing a lot of paint at once is you get your brush like full of that paint color. You gotta like wipe it and rinse it off.
If you had just $1 million, just 10 zillion bucks, would you just have a whole bucket of fresh brushes and instead of rinsing them, you just huck them?
I feel like there's nothing better than like fresh brushes sometimes. Like honestly, when I'm feeling in a like treat myself mood where I want, or if like, it's kind of like, you know how to like get yourself to exercise and go to the gym, you'll buy like workout clothes that you like. That's sometimes how I feel about paintbrushes, where if like I'm getting ready for a new project or I want to celebrate or I just want to like encourage myself, I'll buy brand new brushes and it's a dream.
Have you probably know more about this than me. Are there like ergonomic brush brands? Are people trying to reinvent the paintbrush, or is it just to stick with stuff on the end always?
Well, brushes, it's tricky because brushes serve different purposes for different mediums. There's also different like hairs. You know, you can get natural hair brushes, you can get synthetic.
Right.
For the most part, I don't think they're necessarily changing like the shape of them, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
But there's different purposes, like there are long handled brushes, and that's good for, from what I understand, if I'm thinking correctly, is one, it's good to be a little bit farther away from your painting, and you can kind of like hold the tip of a long handled brush and kind of be a little bit farther away from your painting and like paint that way so you can see it better as you're painting, and it kind of gives you a different kind of control. I have noticed that they're focusing on like, and I don't know if this is like brand new or what, but like travel brushes, we're like making them compact is something that they're kind of focusing on, or foldable, or, you know.
Do you notice a difference in the synthetic versus natural debate, or like eyes closed, are they about the same?
I don't have enough experience with natural brushes actually to know. I like synthetic, and that's what I use most of the time, but I guess I'm not familiar enough with natural to be able to really identify how it feels compared to a synthetic, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
So you can see here, I'm kind of shaping the eyes. These eyes bulge out of this dog's head. So cute. But in order to communicate that, we have to make the values change so it's darker on the sides, and then where it bulges out kind of in the middle, it's a lighter value. Okay. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit of like darker values in this ear here, because these puppies have long hair and it's kind of curly, so you can see that I'm doing a little bit of a wave when I'm putting in these shadows to say like, yes, there's movement here. It's not just a straight line. Okay, we're gonna stop there. For step 3, we're gonna move to step 2. We're gonna do the nose. So I'm gonna switch to my 2 because it's a small area.
Yeah, wait, you just said you're gonna stop there and go to 2, the nose?
The nose. I'm sorry. Step 4, the nose, grab my round 2.
I love that you put these steps up here so I can look at them now.
Me too.
That's good.
Thank you for correcting me. We're on step 4, we're doing the nose. I'm moving to my round 2 brush. I'm grabbing black. The blackest part of this nose will be the nostrils because that's going into the body. It's an actual like hole. Okay, and then I'm going to mix different like grays, using a little bit of blue here and there, but just different values going on. So using this like black, blue, gray color, it's a dark value, but I would say dark medium because our darkest is our black here. I'm going to put that in the front.
Sarah, are those butcher trays like a buy it for life item? Can you wear through them or anything? Are they pretty much, they're going to be good forever?
I've never worn through a butcher tray, but I do have lots of butcher trays because I don't really like to wash my butcher trays. So I'll get a few and then have different color palettes going on, different ones, and then just like keep adding. Or
this is getting really into the nitty gritties. Can you put them in the dishwasher?
That is an excellent question.
Probably, right?
I really don't know. I would think so.
Yeah, they're pretty rugged.
Hardy.
Hardy. The Hardy Boys.
I've never tried that though, and I also want to say that if you're not familiar with butcher trays, they should actually be concave? Convex. They go up in the middle. And so I put my paint along like the edges here and then mix in the middle. And that's how they're made. Okay, so I'm doing kind of a darker value on the edges a little bit and in the middle. And then the top is where it's going to transition into like a gray, with there being a strong highlight on the tip.
You never really notice how funky a dog's nose is until you're like painting it.
Yeah, they're so funky.
They remind me of some like weird scroll work.
Mm-hmm. They like curl in.
Yeah.
Yep.
All of you, there's maintenance happening outside. That's what that lovely noise is.
Neighbors getting their AC unit fixed.
Maybe us getting ours fixed. Who knows?
Yeah, actually, that could be ours. I don't know. You'll notice that I kind of left a little bit of a white spot around the nostrils. Don't do it all the way around. I always leave little white lines when I'm painting areas close, but once it gives a second to dry, I'll fill those in. But I will leave just a little bit of a thin white line on the bottom to act as like a glare for the edge of that nose.
You sound like someone who's had to deal with some paint bleeding problems before.
Oh yeah, I always give myself a little bit of white space. And then I'm just going to use white to do a glare. Right there. Just boop, 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 boop.
I can't express to you the feeling I have in my bones, how bad I want to hold this puppy. Can you imagine how soft it would be? It's so tiny.
So tiny.
Their little paws.
Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the white fur. So where it meets here on the like bridge of the nose, that's pushed back and it's farther in space than like the fur that's actually on the nose. So we need to do a little bit of a darker value there to push that back. Also where the paw is meeting the little cheeks, those are two different planes that are meeting, so that means that this is tucking underneath the paw, so we got to put a value there. And then also even the nose, the front part of this mouth is coming out and then going back in where it connects to that nose, so we got to put a little bit of a shadow there. So I'm going to mix a gray, but I'm going to introduce a little bit of brown to that gray for it to like match the coloring a little bit, give it like a tan feel instead of just like grayish feel. So I'm pulling from that gray, I'm pulling white, I'm pulling a tiny bit of brown, but we still want it to read neutral. So if it's going yellow, you've added too much yellow. So now I have like a tan color here. Put that color kind of behind the nose here. And that should automatically push this back in space. We have a little bit of a shadow coming out here. Around the nose, kind of where it like meets in. And I know I have outlines here and kind of like dashes line to show you how far out it should go, but your painting will inform you. If you got to go past the dash line a little bit because it feels too blocky, do that. It's more important for the transitions to be smooth than for you to follow the outline. Okay. And also on the edge here. And then you can just use water to kind of blend out, or just grab a little bit more paint and maybe some white or something to lighten it up. Okay. And I actually feel like on this back part in the bridge, right at the bottom, I'm going to make that just a little bit of a darker value. So there's a slight value transition there. It just separates it a little bit more, pushes it back in space a little bit more. And our paws and our mouth, this is more on the same plane than this. So this should be a slightly darker value than what's happening here because it's farther away. And then I'm going to do a slight shadow at the top of the head because that is going away from us and turning away from us in space. It's just a slight, just the slightest little change.
Be careful because that blue will bleed into it, right?
Yeah, like you can see there's a slight little blue that bled into there, but not enough to like
fuss over
for me. And then if you are like, let's say like me, there's a paint color to my water now, so whenever I'm trying to use just water and blend, it actually is laying down a color, which bums me out, right? Because I'm like, no, I actually wanted that to stay white. This is the front of the mouth. This has got to be a white value. Well, I should, one, clean my water, and then two, I can just grab white paint and paint some white paint back in there. No harm, no foul. okay? Let's also put in the shadows on these paws. I know we're not at the paws yet, but sometimes if I have the color on my brush, might as well get it done. So kind of in between were these little toes. Are they toes?
Toesies.
Little toesies are meeting. It's a little bit of a value. A little bit of a gray going on here. Okay. All right, good job, team. Now we're gonna move on to step 5, where we're gonna put in our medium values and use a more vibrant orange to do so. So I'm gonna mix a bright orange, more yellow, more red.
I mean, I guess what is a toe but a less functional finger? And I guess, yeah, dogs don't have fingers, that's for sure. So they'd be toes.
Yeah. Now you just want to make sure with this value that this like richer color, it's a lighter value than what you've already put in, because this is supposed to be your medium value, okay? So I mixed a brown, and then when I laid it down, it was like the same color as where I put in my dark value. So I actually just added a little bit of water to lighten it up, but it still has, see how rich this color is?
Yes.
So just kind of play with that. Ooh, that is straight red. I had too much red on my brush, I got excited. And you can kind of like blend these values out. But remember the center part, especially around the eyelids, we want to keep a light value. If you accidentally blend it out, that's okay. We can go ahead and put it back in a highlight, but if you can just like paint around that area and like blend into that area, it just helps you. Makes your job a little bit easier. Dang, this dog has form already, you know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, now I'm gonna take that same vibrant color and kind of paint in the ears. You can leave some sections. We will go back in and put in highlights, but again, if you just want to leave some blank or not paint it, and that could be like a highlighted area, you can do that.
I'm naming this little baby puppy Rosie.
Oh, what an excellent name. Yes. Yes, already I feel that, you know?
Yep.
Okay. You guys, we're flying through this painting. You're doing awesome. We're gonna move on to doing our eyes and finishing up those paws. So I'm gonna move to my round 2. And you can see that these eyes are just so big, and they have that puppy dog glare to them. So I'm actually going to be mixing like a really dark brown black color. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of outline my eye. Okay. My iris. Okay. And then the center part is that black color. And you can see I have a lot of dots in here. Those are all glares. These eyes are glassy, okay? They're beautiful. They're moist. Oof, do you hate that word? Sorry. Sorry I said it.
I also hate the word tissue, in case any of you out there in Lava Land just want to know all the words I hate.
I don't think I have any negative feelings towards a word. I don't mind the word moist. I don't mind the word tissue.
Wow, thanks for hitting both of them.
Okay, and you can see that these spaces that we left for the glares and for like the white of the eyes are super white right now, like way whiter than our painting. And that's because we're gonna soften them, but not yet because everything is just a little bit too wet. We are gonna do the same thing on our other eye. Kind of outline it first, then use your dark black / brown mixture, using around 2.
Yep. All right.
Okay, and then I know I've talked about this before where I like to leave like white spaces. So I'm gonna go back in and kind of fill those in if your eye is dry enough to do so without a lot of bleeding happening. And just kind of like on the inside of this eyelid, there's just going to be a little bit of a darker value. Now paint around the white hair if you can. We can always go back and put a little extra in, so don't stress if you paint over it. And then I'm just going to darken just one more darker value right where this ear meets the head, to be very clear. This is a separate piece that comes off of the body, away from it, if you will. Okay, now is where I'm going to soften up some of these glares. So I'm just taking a damp brush. I'm just kind of moving the color that's already there, so it's more like a gray. Ooh. And this eye was too white. When I did that, you can see it bled that wet black into it, so I'm lifting out. And the nice thing is if you're blending this and it just gets too far gone and you lose your highlight, you can always go back and put it in. I'm also going to tone down the whites of the eyes. And I'm actually just going to use a gray to put those in. Okay. And I feel like my left eye is just a little bit smaller on this, which is true. I'm looking at my reference photo, and that's true for my reference photo. And that's actually pretty common. Our faces, our bodies are not perfectly symmetrical. So you can leave it, or if you want to go in there and kind of change where the eyelid kind of shape is and like round it out a bit, you absolutely can.
I feel like this is a slippery slope.
Yeah, you just got to be careful not to do it too much.
You're going to have just two giant eyes.
And I'm going to leave that for a second. I'll go back in and put in a little bit extra glare where I maybe have blended out too much. But we got to let that dry for a second before I do that. Let's go in with our paws and just put in like the light pink, the soft under part of the paw. So I'm going to take my red and white and mix that together to get like a light pink. I'm just going to follow. Now again, I'm not doing a lot of detail on these paws. It's basically just putting in basic colors. There is a little bit of a darker side of the paw, right? Because they're still round. Those little pads, those soft pads are kind of round. So to communicate that, I'm just going to do a little bit of a darker value on like the bottom right. That kind of curves up. Like so. And I'm going to blend out this kind of gray that I put in there to separate the little toes.
Beans.
The little beans. Again, there's nothing too complex here. It's really basic. Our brain is doing the work, or the brain of the viewer is doing the work for you, where it's just like, oh, a paw, and then moving on. I'm painting over the part where I accidentally painted the paw brown.
It's not pausing. I know I already made a paw joke, but that was good too.
That was good. And I just felt like, sorry, I was looking at that nose. I just felt like it needed to be a little bit darker.
I say it every time. I'm blown away how these paintings turn out.
How they come together?
Seriously.
Because you're like, this cannot.
It's such a three-dimensional looking thing already, and we're not even done.
Yeah. We're getting close, though. We really are getting close with this little fella. So
with Rosie,
we finished steps 1 through 6. Now we're just doing our kind of finishing things. I'm going to put in just a slight, oh, I should have taped my paper down, see how that curls. I'm going to put in just a slight shadow on the bottom here. It's laying on like a white blanket, but just to give it a little bit more for form or something, so it's not just like white of the paper. I'm going to do
some context.
Yeah, just a little bit of a light gray shadow on the bottom there. It kind of turned a little bit green, but I actually really like that color. So I'm good with that. I'm going to take my 2, I'm going to go back into the eyes, just kind of like clean up some of the area a little bit. And then with all the blending that happened and went on, maybe I need to like darken some areas, redefine some of these edges here.
Dog's eyes don't have a lot of white in them, do they? I've noticed that in pretty much all the paintings.
Yeah. And then this is where you're really going to utilize that round 2 and kind of like do tiny little tufts of fur and highlights. So using my round 2, I'm going to mix white into my brown to get a nice creamy tan brown. I might have to mix more yellow in there because that's pink. Now it needs more white.
I don't know how many of you quickly saw Sarah's watch face, but our eldest daughter, Ella, is obsessed recently with making people's avatars. So on all of our game consoles, we all have very flushed out avatars that look exactly like us. And on Sarah's watch, you can see that Sarah's lovely face is on there. Those are all courtesy of Ella.
That is my daughter. I do not put my own avatar face on my watch. It's not who I am.
I turned on the Nintendo Switch the other day, and I was pleasantly surprised to see what she had come up with for me.
Oh, really?
She's getting good.
She is good. Okay, so just taking my 2, I'm going to start doing like the little flyaway hairs. And then also like the front of this ear, we have like, you know how ears kind of sometimes like have the hair in the front? So I'm going to put in those kind of curls and highlights here to like move that edge of the ear to the front. And you can paint over what you've already painted. And if you got to add a little bit of water to your mixture to make it a little bit of a smoother line, go for it. And then also like kind of on that highlight of the eyelid and right above it, I'm going to do little hairs, little textures, just to show, yes, this is hair. Same thing on the other side. And this isn't a pure white color. If I did pure white, that would just be a little bit too white. And the value would be too bright and not match what was going on.
I'm gonna call that white you've got going on there almond.
Ooh, that's great. Yes, almond. Absolutely. I also, sometimes when I'm feeling like edgy, is I'll mix like a vibrant color, like an orange or a yellow, and just like do little pops of yellow in here. Because I like me some vibrant color, you know what I mean? And sometimes I think that's the fun thing about being an artist, is like, yeah, maybe there's not like a strong, bright yellow on this dog, but
Now there is.
Now there is, and I can do that because I'm making this up.
Sarah, she's lovely.
Isn't she lovely?
Well, you guys don't know, Sarah's going to be starting singing tutorials soon. Let's make song.
Okay. That is feeling good. I'm just kind of like looking at the eyes a little bit. I know I need to go in there and adjust the glare. I'm also going to soften up around the eyelid a little bit. There we go. Kind of make those a little bit smaller. And if you need to like do some blending, if a highlight is just too strong, you can just blend it out. And also take this like rich dark brown and kind of like clean up the edges of where it hits that blue. So if there's any like white spots or okay. I'm going to go in with that white. Kind of just like touch up the glare on this dog a little bit. Just a little bit more than what's there. We don't want big chunks. We want like hints. There we go. That's feeling better. I also feel like the white of the eye got a little bit too dark on this left-hand side, so I'm just going to go in and let a little light in there. And then you got to pay attention to the thickness of your hair, the white hairs on this nose particularly. So look at your edges. Right now mine are pretty thick. I just want to introduce just some thinner ones. So just with like my round 2, I'm just going in and kind of finessing. So.
It's a great looking nozzle you got going on there.
Yeah. Okay, and I felt like my glare got a little bit too white here. Darken that up. I think she's done. I'm going to blend this transition that I have here a little bit better from dark to light.
Goodness gracious.
Cute.
So cute.
So cute. This is it.
Even if you're not a dog person, you have to think that's cute.
Here is our Spaniel puppy. Sorry, one thing I'm noticing is that I didn't really clearly define this little guy, so there we go. Okay, that's it. You guys did amazing. Thank you so much for painting this with me. If you want to share what you're doing, I would love to see your version of this Spaniel puppy. You can tag us on Instagram at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. We have a wonderful Facebook group that is for the sole purpose of you sharing your work. That's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. And if you need any of these supplies, the gouache, the brushes, the paint, I already said that with gouache, palette, you can find that at letsmakeart.com. Thank you guys for painting with me. Michael, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Goodbye.